Hey friends, this is just a quick one. Hope you're doing well. My friend Dudu in Durban, he contacted me and wanted to know. He said he'd seen all the furore kicking off in the streets of England recently, and he wanted to know a little bit about that and what was my angle. So Dudu, this is for you and for others who might find my thoughts on it useful. There have been a number of high-profile events that have occurred, and I'm cautious even about the language that I use, because the consequence of these high-profile events has given the system a platform from which to exercise greater control. It has given some members of the public permission to take actions of their own, or demand that those who hold the purse strings of authority given them a license to take greater control of the way that people protest, the way that people, even down to how they comment on social media. Which is why the language that we use is very Orwellian now. We can't really voice honest opinions. Even people will be thinking, I can't even send an email without it possibly triggering some kind of algo somewhere. So are people upset on the so-called left and right of the paradigm? Yes, they are. And people on both sides have got a certain moral justification for their position. Has it been created through mismanagement or design? Take your pick. I'm of the view that mankind is designing her own camp, sea camp. I'm trying to concentrate. Camp. We're creating our own prison, and on one side people are demanding more freedom, and the other side people are demanding more control. And this is to the benefit of, well, the benefit of some, the detriment of the majority. I think that the majority will be 2020 will perhaps seem like a warm-up. It will seem like a trial run for the kind of draconian controls. And it's interesting because you may have seen a little clip I put somewhere of people protesting for climate change curbs, limitations, controls. And these people believe that there is a clear and present risk, danger to the planet, as they call it, and that this is warrants us stopping fossil fuels, stopping people traveling, limiting cities and movement in cities or in cars. Carbon taxes, which have been which are making life much more expensive than it was. These are things that are being wrought on us all, and people are clamoring for it. And if you say no, this is not in our best interest, are you sure you want to take this action? Yes, it's absolutely necessary. In the case of the more relevant or pertinent or current agenda, which has got people really bothered and is causing people to run out in the streets and hurl abuse and rocks at people from the other side, at police. You've got people feeling on one side like and this doo-doo is what's happening in South Africa. You've got people feeling on one side that people are coming from Zimbabwe, Malawi, these places seeking a better life, which who can blame them? I've met some lovely people in South Africa who have slipped through the border to kind of just so that they can send money home to their family, and a lot of them have to struggle quite hard to just to get by themselves. And so in England, of course, one of the things that people are upset about is that certain what appears to be privileges and opportunity, housing and funding is given to people, which in South Africa people would be like, wow, that's a lot of opportunity that we do not get in South Africa. But what then happens is people go, no, we've got to stop this. And we saw it in America. We've seen it in America. The actor Donald Trump, he's like Superman, that healed ear. I got a scratch on my hand the other day. It's taking longer to heal than his ear. But anyway, he was like, yeah, we see the problem of people coming in from Mexico or wherever. So let's build a wall. And you've got people chanting, let's build a wall. Now, they don't realize that wall is a prison for them too. And the wall of, okay, we've got to spend more money in the UK and England on stopping boatloads of people arriving. So we've got to have more naval thing. We've got to have more controls. We've got to limit how people come in here. Also limits how people can move around. I mean, we saw it with the Novid. And all of a sudden people are like saying, oh no, you can't travel here, you can't go there, because Granny is at risk, and so you must do things, you must take certain things, you must have the digital ID, which it seems to me is very much on the cards. And speaking of Trump, he was the inventor of the term, or rather he popularized the term fake news. And so we have the situation where through the aegis of what has gone on in England over the last few weeks, that the government are now empowered to take more steps to limit people speaking their truth. We may not agree with it, and their truth may be based on a situation or a perception that is misaligned. You could take the vegan agenda, for example. If you put them in charge, they would ban all meat, and they would feel justified in doing that. They would have you eating bugs and plants, and feel justified in doing that. Excuse me. So I think what's happened in the last few weeks is merely fueling the fire. It is limited in its scope. I know that there have been a few streets in the entirety of the country, which is a lot of streets in the country, hundreds of thousands, if not a million streets, but there's been, a few dozens of streets that have seen unfortunate actions taken by a few, motivated by what they believe to be what they are, in both, on both sides, that they are just positions. I'm not choosing sides. I'm not saying one is wrong. There are valid positions to be held on both sides of this debate, but they are using that to foment greater control over our society and greater control over our thoughts and our actions. And I see this leading us further down a path that doesn't serve mankind. In fact, it continues to drive a wedge. Voodoo in South Africa, the Zimbabwean black-skinned brother who looks similar, or the same, one could say, to the Zulu. For me, we are all the same. We all have the same blood, and yet in South Africa, you see that a Zimbabwean injured, hurt, or whatever in a sort of get out of our country type action. People feel aggrieved about that. And you'd be interested to know that they used to feel that about the Irish in England, and yet from Southern Africa perspective, the Irish and the English are the same. I as a youngster growing up in South Africa, I wasn't aware that there was this antagonism. The French and the English, they look pretty much the same, and there's this antagonism between them. But this is how the divide and conquer has us all beat, and reinforces the need for superior control from external forces. Problem, reaction, solution. And is the problem organic? Has it just come about because there are just so many people on these crunched into these tiny cities? Or has it been engineered by decades of sort of corporatization of industry, of farming, of the land, of the freedom to move? Because it is my contention that we should be free to move. But when I've paid taxes in this country, and I've paid for the roads, and I've paid for this, and I've paid for that, and then someone comes in for a free ride, then I can justifiably feel like, hey, you're taking from the pot that I paid into, and you've not paid into it. And it all stems back, in my view, to the time when we were, robbed of our inheritance. That the value of South Africa, the value of the oil under the oceans, right, underground, and the gold in South Africa, and titanium, or whatever, all these things that are so valuable on Earth that we can use, were corporatized, and they were taken into the hands of the few for their profit rather than the profit of the many. Keeping people in a state of fear and in a state of distress because they are financially strapped is playing into a trauma that exists in us all. And nature is abundant. I'm just seeing this apple tree behind me here. This apple tree is unbelievable. The whole inside of that trunk is rotted through, and yet the tree continues to produce all the way through there. It's one tree, by the way, split there, just there in the middle. But nature is abundant, and we have that potential for abundance and freedom. But we have, through traumatizing, we have lost this essence. We have lost this birthright we have given away authority, and therefore we are somewhat broken, and we need, dare I say it, we need policing. We need some mechanisms of control in our world, because it is a little bit, I've said many times, it's Shawshank Redemption. It is a little bit crazy if you just let lifetime prisoners out of the prison. However, that doesn't excuse or exonerate those that are running the show from continuing the deceptions. However, there is the phrase that comes to mind, as within, so without. And because within the heart of those who are taking strong actions on the left or the right side of this story, within their hearts there is trauma, there is imbalance, and that imbalance and the side that they're choosing is based on the trauma that they experienced at young. Which is why if you're born in a Muslim family, you're going to be Muslim. A Christian family, you're going to be Christian. Manchester United, you're going to be a Manchester United supporter. And if you're coming at it from the I'm a white guy being, and our country is being overrun by Islam or whatever, then we are going to react in that way. And the thing is that there's no getting around it. It's like, the people over at Liverpool Football Club have been sending supporters, buying them houses over in Manchester's neighborhoods, and creating like a nugget of imbalance. The Zimbabweans who come to South Africa would rather be in Zimbabwe, in my opinion, in the main. It's not to say that we can't move and change the country we live in because we love this, or there is a particular opportunity there, or whatever. But we wouldn't be moving around in our droves. We wouldn't be jumping. We wouldn't be risking life and limb. Now, some would say, and it comes to my mind, some would say, what you see in England is a certain demographic, young men being brought here on purpose to create, like I said, in the Liverpool situation, young men are being sent into Manchester to create a situation where Manchester United supporters get so outraged they end up having some kind of civil unrest in the streets of Manchester. And as a consequence of that, the Football Association say, okay, no more, you guys can't actually come to the football game anymore because of the problems that we're seeing, which means that Manchester, and this actually happened for a little while, I think in the 90s when I was first here, that they were playing games in enclosed stadiums where there were no fans there, and so there was, if you're the player and you've got none of your supporters there, then you don't have the home team advantage, you don't have the roaring and the chanting and cheering you on, whatever. I hope that analogy is useful. But really, this comes back to trauma. So yes, there are nefarious agents, it seems to me. I am, after all, someone who doesn't accept the mainstream view of the world. And there are nefarious agents who have, for a long time, sought to injure us, to harm us, to put us in that hungry dog situation. And I there's nothing that I can do to stop that. Stand in the street, shout, put the chalk down, hand out flyers. Some people that resonates with, a lot of people who, oh no, we just want to go back to swilling the beer and believing what we're told. They call it Stockholm syndrome, right? Which is what we saw in World War II with Sweden when the Germans turned up. Stockholm syndrome, even though they were being starved, even though South Africans are being, there's a continuation of the mistreatment of the common man, the living man. There's a mistreatment of the living man just now as there was under apartheid. There is, they still vote in their millions for the ANC. In fact, the ANC would have had, were it not for the Zulus setting up their own, is it Inkatha or the I forget now what the name is, but was it not for them setting up their own one, then the ANC would have had the same level of voting. So it's only been sort of split because of them being, there's two camps now, rather than ANC sort of holding the Zulu and the Xhosa and all the other groups together. But they're still voting for the system, and the system is going to continue to bankroll the corporation and steal from the corporation. So the point is that they're going to continue. The system is going to continue playing this game. Now, I don't know whether it's because we have a soul agreement with our higher self to come into a game that is corrupted. Whatever the reason, it is going to continue for the foreseeable future. And the question is, what are you going to do? This is the most important thing, is that what are you going to do? Because you can really only shape your life, and those perhaps are a little bit of those around you. But the meta game that is being played, we cannot alter. Maybe it's a God level thing, maybe it's a devil level thing, depending on how you perceive what's going on. I don't think it matters so much as what is happening for you, your soul, the story within, because as within, so without. And so, we must find ways to come into harmony and find our own peace, our own balance, despite all the Liverpool supporters that are, and I have no issue with the Liverpool or Manchester, but to use the analogy that you got all these Liverpool supporters, and of course I'm having to use language that Al Gore's rhythm doesn't get upset with. We have to alchemize, harmonize, come into equanimity, come into balance, come into neutrality, for ourselves. Yeah, I'm interested in what's happening in the world because, of course, it does have a bearing on things. But really, what's most important is here. Earth, heart, love. Not too much in the head, not too much in the trousers, but in the heart, in balance. You see. So this, my brothers and doo-doo, is what we must do. Now, for those of you who want to, we have we have slots left on our workshop. 4 days, £69. It starts tomorrow night, Thursday. No, not tomorrow, my apologies. 2 nights time. Today's Tuesday. 2 nights time starts. And if for some reason even £69 is out of your reach, hit me up with an email, trinityforman@gmail.com, and we can have a conversation. We do want people to make an energetic commitment to this. It is a serious part of your own journey to balance, to equanimity, to finding harmony in a harmonious world, but where mankind is creating disharmony. By design, or just because this is what happens, the Sodom and Gomorrah, the crazy the greed, the 7 deadly sins, getting, just becoming exponentially tighter and tighter and tighter, like a coil spring, until eventually something massive changes, which I believe will come, but it may not be in our lifetime. So in our lifetime, what are we going to do about that? And the thing is that even if it is coming in your lifetime, you cannot sit and wait for that, because it's not going to have healed you. It's not going to have brought you into balance. Whatever happens at the end, if there's an end time, it's not going to be, oh, well, I'll just sit in my chair and watch it all arrive. No, you need to have done the work. You need to have come into your own beautiful place of balance and harmony. And this is really the higher calling, is that you've been given the gift of sight, but don't squander it on just watching fear porn and all the crazy stuff unfolding. The crazy stuff unfolding is meant to be perhaps like a wake up call, but it's like, now what? I'm 10 years into the seeing the crazy stuff, raw. And I know that it was a journey for me to get to the point where I'm like, okay, I need to do more. I need to fix my heart. I need to heal. And it's not a one size fits all. It's not I'll take a 4-day, 2 hours, 8, per day, 8 hours workshops, and then it's done. No, of course not. It's an ongoing, continuous journey of a returning, and there's no finish line. There's no like you have to be done deal next week. But at the same time, if you haven't made a conscious choice to begin the journey to healing, then there's no better time than now. Be well.